Hello, this is Sarah, painting creator, and I'm just setting up for an A4 size painting, but it's a painting you could do anytime in any colour hue really. You could make it really autumnal or really sort of summery, it's or spring-like, it's up to you. And it's basically a bridge reflected in some still water. So this is the bridge, and I will drop the image in the comments section. And I will be doing this as a paint with me session, so if you're wanting to join that, get in touch. I do one-to-one paint sessions at a very reasonable cost for paintings that take roughly an hour. So this is about a reflection of a bridge. So the water and then the sort of undergrowth. So the water is below halfway. So this would be around about halfway. So I'm about 10 centimetres, if that, 5 centimetres below halfway of my water. I try not to put halfway things because it cuts the painting in half. And we've got some rocks here and here that will be reflected in the water as well. And reflections always go the opposite way. So if you've got a line like that, your reflection line always goes like that. And if you've got something really dark, the reflection's quite often lighter. If you've got something lighter, you quite often find the reflection a little bit darker. A bit strange really. So this is the main bridge. I'm just going to put some greenery behind it. The painting really is about using some techniques for the reflection. As always, I'm going to use my little plastic card for the stones because I like that technique. This is just an old library card, but any plastic store card, and it just takes the edge off. I really like that technique. And I'm also going to just reserve the light a little bit on some bits using a piece of wax which is off a candle. I've got a couple of trusty little pieces of wax, so I'm going to just run a little bit along the top of the bridge and the edge of this post. So the light was there, so I'm going to run it into here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of light on there. I'm also going to run some lines horizontally through. Remember, always less is more. There, and I'm going to just reserve a little bit of highlight on some of these rocks using my wax, and it'll just resist it a little bit. I'm not pushing really hard, and I'm just going to put a little bit of highlight along that line there. There's a bit of wax that broke off. So I think I'm ready to start. I'm using my Cotton watercolour paints. You can use any paint with it, it's up to you. Plenty of fresh clean water. Some paper towel is always essential. I tend to use a lot of my Meaden mop brushes. I like the point that they go to because I can do small bits but I love the amount of water and pigment they hold. But just use whatever brushes you want. And I'm also going to be using my little bit of sponge. This is just off a little scourer. I just cut a bit and then picked at it and just make it not have any hard edges really on it. So let's dive straight in, and I'm going to mix up some greens. You could use greens straight off your palette. It's up to you what you want to do, but I want to mix my greens because I like mixing greens. So this is ultramarine and some Hansa yellow light, which creates a beautiful, bright, vibrant green, which is a nice start. I'm going to do some cerulean blue and the same Hansa light, because that will make light yellow. That will make a different bright green as well. And then I'm going to do a cerulean blue, and some new gamboge, which has got a more of a yellow tone, yellow orangey tone. Maybe that's a bit too much. I might have to put a bit more. Don't know. That might be quite nice. We'll see. And then ultramarine with that same new gamboge, which is a yellowy orange colour. Which makes a more olivey green. So I've got 4 really interesting greens there. Already splashed my paint onto my paper, never mind. So let's get painting some background. So I'm going to start off with this really bright yellowy green with lots of water in it, because I want it in the distance. I'm just going to drop in, and I just want distant foliage behind this bridge, as if it's sort of there, not there. I'm going to just run some this bright yellow down into this bank as well, and maybe a little bit over here, because these rocks are going to be darker, so maybe I'll drop some darker into there. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it fresh with a little spritz and pick up my next brightest, which is this one, and I'm just going to add in some of that for some colour change, basically, along the way. Bringing it up to that edge of that, and around the stones and into there. So I'm picking up this olivey green now and just dropping some much darker greens in. It's just the background wash. So you're just building up that sort of texture of the undergrowth, that sense of it being there or not there. And grab a different green. just going to add a little bit more ultramarine blue into one of these green mixes. Yeah, just to add a bit of shadow. Maybe draw in some trees that aren't trees because they're just lines, but might be trees. Then you can just work into this damp wash and just see how you're going. Maybe there's a bush or something over here. Remember, the painting really is about the bridge and the water. So you don't want anything too, oh gosh, that's quite blue, never mind, just squish it away. You don't want anything too detailed back here, but you also want that sort of sense of things blending. Okay, it's starting to dry. So I'm going to go in with my spritzer bottle because I want it to just do a little bit of granulating on the paper. You can see it's starting to separate. I could use my big one from a big distance, and that's nice as well for background texture. So I'm just going to let this dry off a little bit, and then we'll be able to come back and work some of the foreshore of the sea, the lake. Just seeing a hard edge that I don't really want at the moment, so I've just softened that back a bit. Oh, it's still damp. You can do things while it's damp. Once it's drying, it's a bit more difficult. And I'm just going to lift this edge with a damp but nearly dry brush just to take that hard edge out. Okay. Might give it another cheeky squirt, and then we'll give it a rest. Sorry. Okay, so we're back. Mixing your own greens always allows for this beautiful granulation, this separation of the colours, particularly when you're using ultramarine, I've found, because the ultramarine seems to separate out even more than the others. So I just wonder whether it's something special, who knows. So I want to build some light just behind where we're going to put this bridge in, because it then will draw the eye. So I'm going to use some Hansa yellow light and a little touch of cerulean blue to make a really light green, and I'm just going to add a tiny bit of cadmium red light just to dull it down a little bit. And I just want to paint, so I'm just using my little mop brush, and I'm just painting a a little bit of a draw through the bridge. So taking my brush, I'm just going to lift off some of that so it doesn't look like it's nothing. There we go. Maybe I should have done that first, who knows, but it's fine, it works. But I wanted it to be a different colour to this foreground, because otherwise you end up with it all just sort of blending in to each other, and I wanted that light colour. Perhaps what I can do is I can go in a touch of ultramarine in there, and just whilst it's still damp, maybe build up some sort of leaf textures and patterns that might be just poking out. Soften my brush, wet my brush. I'm just going to soften some bits of this away because I don't want it to be in too much of a focus, but it suggests that there might be some foliage there behind the bridge, which is quite nice. Just lighten that bit off, it was a bit dark. So nice easy way of drawing the eye through the bridge. So let's think about putting these stones on, I think, next. Or the bridge. No, let's do the bridge. I'm going to have to do the bridge, and then I'm going to have to keep hold of that colour because I'm going to be able to drop the same colour into the reflection in the water. So as I'm painting the bridge, I'm sort of making mental note to myself that I need to maintain that colour. And as always, you could do the bridge whatever colour you want. So I'm going to start with some burnt sienna. I'm just going to drop in a little bit of neutral tint into there just to darken it off a little bit. Let me just try. Looks a bit wooden, so I want it a bit more stony colour. So I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue into there. Just to grey it down a little bit. So if you haven't liked and subscribed and done a comment, please do. In the comment section I will drop a link to my Folksy site, which is my site where I sell paintings. Yeah, that's a better colour. And obviously there's also a coffee site, which if you want to support me and the work that I do with our ME community, if you could drop me a coffee, which is basically some support for the paying for the extra art materials and the Zoom time that we managed to go through, because many of us who are on very limited incomes because we can no longer work are quite isolated, and they're an absolute godsend are spaces like Zoom where we can join together. So there we are. We've got beautiful granulation again because we've got those blues coming out of the stonework. I've just added a little bit more blue into there. I'm just going to drop in some, it's called loading the wash if you want the right words. So I'm just dropping in some darker tones around the bridge area and under the bridge. I will come in with some more shadows on there once we've got that sorted. Just want rid of that. Wash my brush, and then I'm just going to lift out a bit of highlight just so that you can get that sense that. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of that green here. Sorry, I just realised that I didn't press the play button or record button, so I've just added a little bit of green into there. I've now got to stop faffing and fiddling because it's drying. So I can, however, move on to doing these stones. So I'm going to use my smaller mop brush and I'm going to do a yellow ochre underneath. I've just gone over that bridge colour. And I'm just dropping it in on both the top and the reflection colour. And then some burnt umber into there. And a touch of Payne's Grey. If you haven't got Payne's Grey, you could just add a touch of Mars Black. You just want in a nice dark browny bluey colour. You could add a little bit of ultramarine into there to create the colour. Just play around until you've got a colour that you like. And just drop it in. And the same here. You can see that the wax resist is working really nicely. And I'm doing the rocks on the surface at the same time as the rocks up on the reflection. Because I want to try and keep them in some sort of harmony. So just getting my little card and just scratching some rock shapes out. It's a bit damp yet, might need to wait a minute. Just be a bit patient. It seems to be drying more on this edge, I can catch that. It's always a bit of a balancing act. So if you can see, I'm going down to the bank and then up to create the opposite for the reflection. There we go. And then you're after a nice dark, just to drop in where the bank edge goes. across these rocks. And then damp brush, wash brush, and then just soften the bank away a little bit, pushing from the bottom with your brush. Same here, soften it away. And you've suddenly got some nice rocks. You can go in with a bit more of a dark to darken some of the edges if you want. But the sort of unpainted nature makes them stand out really nicely. And we've got to let it dry, so I'm going to just have a little break, make a brew, and then I'll be back. Okay, the next step is to put a little bit more information and a bit more of a shadow under this bridge. So I'm going to mix up using some alizarin crimson and ultramarine. I'm going to mix up some shadow colour. And I'm actually going to just drop in there a little bit of orange, just to mute it down a little bit and make it greyer. Take the excess off on a paper towel. So it's quite watery and it's a warm colour still, but I'm just going to drop this shadow under the bridge. Wash my brush and then soften that away into that wash. So that's starting to just build that shadow underneath the bridge. We might have to go in again and do a bit more of that. I want to drop a shadow down this sort of inside of this wall here and under the lip of the bridge. Again, wash your brush and then just soften it away, because if you don't want that hard edge but you want the shadow, that's the way to do it. And then I want to deepen the shadows here that are being cast by the vegetation with some random marks. And then maybe a couple of brick shapes. I'm not about to paint all the bricks, but that sort of indication that there might be some bricks there. The last thing I want to do is paint bricks, but I want people to sort of feel like it's got some texture. So I want to darken and deepen this shadow colour. So same, alizarin crimson, ultramarine. A little bit of orange. So I've left it more purple, it's thicker. And I'm going to go back in under here. Deepening the shadow colour. So wash my brush off. Maybe a bit too much water on my brush, but I do want those softness. So I'm building that shadow. So I'm building this shadow. vegetation is. Shadow under that arc of the edge of the bridge, and then into here again, maybe down that post as well. Wash it away, wash it away. So we've suddenly started to get a little bit more depth. I'm just going to add a little bit more ultramarine into here for a different layer of shadow. To be careful that it doesn't look too contrived. I'm also going to drop a little bit of shadow into here just to build some ideas that there might be some trees or bushes that have got a bit of depth. So that, to just change the shadow colour, I just added a little bit of cadmium red light into it. And I want some lost and found sort of edges really for this. So I don't mind some hard edges, but I want to soften some as well. So a damp brush softens off while it's, I think I'll do some in this shadow patch that we created as well, some lighter shadows. And it's just using what you've got on your palette to tell a little bit of a story. Okay. So I don't want that to come too far forward, but I do want a wash on this front hill to bring it forward out of the background. So that hill I'm going to put a little shadowy colour, so alizarin crimson, the ultramarine, but maybe not as much because I've left it pinkier. A touch of that cadmium red light, quite watery because it's a wash on top. I want the other colours to be able to be seen through it. Wash my brush, take some of the excess away, and you start to see how those washes can build up and separate tonally. I'm just going to add a little bit of that colour into these rocks, top and bottom. Same over here. It's loose, it's just telling its own story. I might just darken that a little bit as well. So it's got that nice, bright, fresh feel without without muddying the layers. Okay, time to let that dry. Okay, so I've grabbed my 3/4 inch flat brush. I quite like this one, it's nice and soft, because I don't want it to disturb here, but I do like flat brushes for particularly doing the water for paintings like this. So I could do the water bright blue, that would work, and you would see it as water. But what I want is to capture some of this green in the reflection of the water. So I'm going for more of a turquoisey colour in the water. Plenty of water in the water. And I'm going to add some cadmium yellow into that. And you guessed it, I'm going to dull it down with some cadmium red light. If you haven't got cadmium red light, you can always use a hint of burnt sienna. It will do a similar job, or an orange will do a similar job, until you've got a sort of a dull greeny bluey colour. I might just add a little bit of cerulean blue into there as well. You want quite a puddle making up, because it's the main part of, and just gentle horizontal strokes, and you'll see it covers your stonework. It will cover where we're doing I love how the wax resist is showing through, and where the dry brush comes through as well. So that's the first layer of the water. Nice gentle horizontal strokes, and that will help sit the water in. So cadmium yellow into there, and a little bit of phthalo blue or greeny blue, Windsor green blue, and a touch of cadmium red light just to make it a bit duller. And I'm just using my brush on its point and its flat end, and I'm just going to drop in, while it's damp, some ripples. Be brave. I've just turned my brush so it's flat, and darkening this foreground, so I'm going to just run a little bit over there. So I'm just going to make a darker mix now, so phthalo blue, a touch of my cadmium yellow to make that lovely turquoise colour, and a hint of that red light just to dull it down. But I want this to be thicker than the paint that I put on. Because otherwise it will run back. So I'm just doing the foreground feel of the water. I'm just going to drop some darks around that bank. And just using the shape of the brush build an idea of movement in the water. That one's gone a bit high. I'll just wipe that away. And just, you know, if you're not happy, just soften away with a clean, dry brush. And I'm going to just spritz with my little spritzer bottle into this drying wash, just to get a little bit of texture onto some of those. Right, just load that a little bit more. Maybe I want one coming down like that. Just see how it's drying. So just waiting for that to work. I'm just going to soften that away a little bit. I don't want it too dark up there. But a nice way. So again, I'm going to grab my brush and just soften that. Lift a little bit of light through that reflection. Same here, lifting a little bit of the colour. So this is still damp, and I'm grabbing my small mop brush, and we're going to mix up the same colour that we had here for the bridge. So some burnt sienna, some raw umber, and a little bit of yellow ochre. I think will work. And I'm going to just put some water in there, and I'm going to glaze over the bridge with that colour, and then I'm just going to drop in quite bravely the bridge colour into this drying wash. So by glazing over what I had, I've matched in quite well. The drying wash means that we've got a sense of it being connected still. So the next thing I need to do is to find that purple colour, which was alizarin crimson, ultramarine, and a touch of orange, which was our first purple colour. I'm just dropping that in. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just need to look at where the main shadows are. So I'm going to darken this one. Oops, maybe a bit of too much of cadmium red light there. Take the excess on, and I'm just dropping in those darks. Shadow colours, I'm just going to add a little bit more over here. to bring this forward while it's on my palette and soften it down. And I'm picking up my little flat brush. I've damped it off, taken most of the water out, and I'm just going to lift up some light patches through it. So wet wash your brush, take the water out, and just lift up some ripples going through. Just a few. Look where your stripes have come on your So there we go, we've suddenly got the reflection in. So the last thing we need to do is put a little bit more of a sort of foreground brush here, and then we're finished. So we're going to mix up an ultramarine. I'm using my little flat brush, a bit of that cadmium yellow. Nice olivey, greeny colour, and just starting to put the foreground of a bush or a tree on, using the corner of my brush. Then I'm going to get this little bit of yellow kitchen scourer and dab it in. And I'm just putting a bit of a foreground bush in. So back to my little 3/4 brush, and this shadow colour, I'm just going to drop in on using the corner of my brush, this shadow in some parts, just to add a bit of interest. And then I'm going to mix up a slightly brighter green, so more yellow, less blue. So a cerulean blue in this one, because it's not as powerful. And a hint of this shadow colour in there, just to neutralise it down a little bit. There we go. So a brighter green, grabbing my little spongy bit, and I'm just going to put some foreground bushes around here. And as always, we work light to dark, so mix a darker mix now. So ultramarine and that cadmium yellow, maybe more ultramarine now. grab my sponge and darken some bits. And then just adding a bit of Hansa yellow light and some ultramarine. I'm just going to add some of that with my corner brush. I forgot to take it off on my brush. So, load your brush standing up, take the excess off and just flick some grasses up by the edge. And then into reflection into the water. I'm just adding a bit more Payne's grey into this mix just to darken it again. I'm just going to darken some parts of this. And it'll just mix on the paper, it's fine. I'll load my brush again with this, touch it on the paper towels, take the, and just put same again, just loading up. Nice way of just getting some little bits of texture on that water's edge. I think we're about there. I just want to grab a little bit more of a shadow under here. Maybe a bit of a shadowy greeny colour across here. But that's where we're at really. So a nice sort of summer's day, bright feeling. Let's just give it a dry. So I've dried it off. I just think it needs a little bit more dark on it. So I'm just going to do a classic dark, which is ultramarine and burnt sienna mixed together. Fairly thick with my little rigger brush. Take the excess off, and I do think it just wants maybe a little bit more water in there to get it to flow. Yeah, that's better. I do think it just wants a little bit of a feeling. Just get my just taking the water out a little bit. It just wants that sort of definition without it having the definition. Go back in with my rigger brush. Right, you could just use an ink pen for this. It would work, but not everybody's got an ink pen, and I know that. You might think yours doesn't need this, but I'm just thinking these darker lines, particularly in these shadow areas, just break it up a little bit, which is much nicer. And as always, less is more. Lift that way, it's a bit dark. Not sure I like that loop there, but that's fine. I can pick it up and push away. And then a little bit of dark under here, I think. Quite like that. Yeah, like that. I'm just going to get my little flat brush. Just put some of this shadow and dark colour together. Take the excess off and just flick a little bit into this grass just to break out. Right, and I really must stop fiddling, but I hope you've enjoyed that. Shall I try paint my signature with my paintbrush again? That'd be fun, wouldn't it? There we go, we've tried it. I don't like it, so I'm doing the same as I did before. I'm going to wash it out and then paint, wait for the paint to dry. I'm going to go over it with my ink pen because that's what I prefer using. Maybe I'm not a real artist if I can't do my signature, but you never know. So here we are, a bridge over some still water. I hope your life's got still water. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have a go painting it, why not drop a picture in the comments if you can. I don't know if you can, but if you can, that'd be really nice to see. And maybe we'll catch up another time. So please like, subscribe, comment, visit my folksy shop. The link's in the comments. And I'll catch you on the other side.